Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cloudy with a Chance of Dyslexia. Today, we're here joined by the dynamic Sweat. Oh, I always get your name wrong. You'll have to.
It's fine. Show us and pronounce it like
Yeah.
SHE.
Whose journey really started from the early apprentice integrated marketing leadership at Microsoft, and as powerful as it is motivating, we're here to talk about what it means to build campaigns that resonate, why apprenticeships matter more than ever, and how tech, especially cloud and AI, is shaping future communication, plus to explore the importance of neurodiversity in the workplace and how companies can better support talent from all walks of life. Let's dive into the thoughts and forward-looking conversation. So in terms of starting with an early question, really, when you started out in tech and things like that, you've had such a diverse career so far, from your experience with Tideway to leading marketing campaigns at Microsoft. What initially sparked your interest in marketing and tech, and especially coming from an engineering-focused background?
Yeah, so with me, I initially wanted to be a civil engineer. If you knew me when I was 14, civil engineer was my dream because my dad's a civil engineer. I love seeing the stuff he was building. He was telling me about how he supported the Shard and all these other big things in London. I was like, oh, if he can do that, I can do that. That sounds amazing. I want to do it. He got me a work experience at Tideway when I was in year 9, and that's when I got introduced to a bunch of different sides of the engineering world, but I fell in love more with civil engineering, and that's when I also got introduced to the idea of apprenticeships. And as I was going through my A-levels, I chose subjects that were specifically aligned to civil engineering. So I chose physics, chemistry, and maths. Painful subjects, but I'm very happy that I chose to do them.
Yeah.
And during that time, I was looking at applying for apprenticeships, but I was also looking at my 10-year plan. And at that time, everybody was like, you need to get into tech. Everyone is going into tech. Why are you not going into tech? And I'm like, you know what? That could be at the end of my 10-year plan. That sounds nice. I like the project management aspect of it and working with technologies and gaining experience with people. So I was like, okay, that will be there. But then as I was going through applying for civil engineering apprenticeships, the Microsoft one just took on my feed. And I started reading the description of it. And I do like to think of myself as creative. I love sewing, knitting, all baking, cooking, all of that type of stuff. I love it. So I was like, okay, I get to be a bit creative in this role. It sounds fun. It sounds like a bit of me. I love a bit of project management. I do like bossing people around tech too. So I was like, okay, you know what? It's the only tech company I've applied to. It's if I don't get it, I don't get it. My main focus is civil engineering, but it's not going to hurt if I do get it. So I applied and I got into Microsoft. And with Microsoft's apprenticeship program, you don't know where you're going to land until your first day of the job or your final setup interviews.
Wow.
So as I was going through it, I was making sure they knew I was a bubbly person, that I was creative, that I like fun things, that I want to do fun things. And I feel like my personality just said, you know what? Marketing is where you're going to reside and it's where you're going to do well. So I was one of the only people that was lucky enough to be placed in the CMO team. And it was absolutely amazing. I feel like it just grew my love for technology and marketing more. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I love the fact you've got a 10-year plan. I don't think I've got a 10-year plan, to be honest.
I had one. Now I'm still trying to figure it out for the next 10 years.
Yeah, but look, I mean, at least you're planning. The most important thing is, you're right, is don't get caught so much in the short term. Look at what you want to try and achieve in the long term. So that's really, really good to know. So when you started on that apprenticeship at Microsoft, obviously you're a passionate advocate for that apprenticeship program, right? So young professionals maybe exploring pathways. What drew you to that apprenticeship route? Because you're in the middle of a degree and all those things are happening for you. So has it shaped your perspective on that ability to have that social mobility, which you sort of move around roles and things like that? Do you find that's made a difference for you by going through that process?
I think it's benefited me in more ways than I could even imagine. I mentioned that I did a work experience with an engineering company, and that's when I got introduced to the idea of apprenticeships. I met 3 apprentices that were in quantity surveying, data analysis, and another one was in finance. And they were talking to me about how beneficial that they found it for them. And one of them were neurodiverse, some of them weren't. And they're just outside of just earning money, it's you're able to learn while you're working. And I'm a person that is hands-on with their learning. So it just made sense to me. And at that time, I wasn't diagnosed with my neurodiversity, but I had an inkling that something was there. So it's like for me and like my learning styles and the environment that I know I was going to thrive. I knew I was going to be in a working environment. I know that if I was doing traditional uni, I would have done okay, but I wouldn't have been as successful as I am now. And like even like the sort of like getting a job and getting work experience and the things that the working world requires you as a young person to have, I feel like I'm been put in so much better of a position compared to my peers because I went through this route, because some people have just gone to uni without any of experience and are struggling to find work, struggling to find jobs. But I've been in a position that I'm doing my degree, basically completing my degree, and had 4.5 years of experience and have a healthy network that would make finding a job, landing something a lot easier for me. And then actually like doing my apprenticeship with like the company, like having a team that was always advocating for me and making sure that I was able to learn as I go, supporting me with my university assignments. Like, you don't know the amount of times that I sent to my team, hey guys, I'm doing this assignment. Do you want to help me?
Yeah, that's great.
Stuff like that. And I'm like, it's just like, I know a lot of people think like me and need that type of support. So I will always advocate for apprenticeships. Like, I made sure that even as I was applying for, even though I'd never experienced it at the time, I was like, okay, my school needs to know about what apprenticeships are. And I will tell them what apprenticeships are. Apprenticeships are as valuable as university is. You can argue for some people, apprenticeships are a bit more than that. So I made sure my school knew, and they didn't really, they took me seriously, but they took me more seriously when I did get my offer. So that kind of did help.
That's great. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is with that, what you've done in terms of as a mentor within
Mm.
Microsoft, I know because I work there, right?
Yeah.
Is that they have different EIGs. It'd
Mm-hmm.
be good for you to actually explain a bit about that, right? Because I know you've played quite a key role in the Embrace EIG, and maybe
Yes.
for the people that might listen to this podcast, maybe that might want to do an apprenticeship or want to work with Microsoft, or even just want to get into tech in general, especially as young women,
Mm-hmm.
particularly because I think that's something really important to attract women to technology. There's a lot, it's very male, as you know, it's very male
Yeah.
dominated, So let's, and also, in terms of mixing, cultures as well, just making sure we get the
Mm-hmm.
right cultures and the right balance in our roles and jobs, because that's so important to have that balance in the way we work together, right? So
100%.
get different views of people, and society is better by it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think you played a really key role in that. So could you explain how you got into it? And then you're very early in career, right? So
Yeah.
uh, so
So
that what are the things that impacted you around that?
So with the mentoring, so I've done a couple mentoring rings at Microsoft, and one of the main ones I participated was is the Embrace Employee Resource Group. So they run almost like, I think 3 times a year they do like an 8 to 10 week course of mentoring, where you'll have like weekly sessions with me as your mentor, but then you also have 4 like mandatory sessions that you need to join that we run by like the broader team, where you'll be able to get CV skills, interviews skills, networking opportunities, and all of that jazz. And I feel like it's a really beneficial program. Like I've mentored a few people and seen a few people that have even managed to get internship and
Great.
grad roles at Microsoft or at other companies. It's like the community that they have there is absolutely amazing. Like I remember I had one mentee, she was really, really shy when I first started like my calls with her. She was just like very in her shell, kind of like how I was when I started. But like throughout the 8 weeks, she was really able to grow and become more confident with her presentation skills. I brought her in for an insight day, and she was able to meet a few more people in the marketing world and build her confidence in that sense. And she managed to get an internship role, not at Microsoft, but at another company. And I could not be more proud of her. But that is just like one of the many, many, many success stories that we've had. I
Yeah.
was a part of like another mentoring ring, but this wasn't to do with Embrace. I believe it was like C2C mentoring. So we've got partnered with one of the schools in, I believe, like north of England. I can't remember the name of the school. Everyone was doing it. And it was a bunch of apprentices mentoring year 12 and year 13 students who were really interested in apprenticeships. We were going through their CVs, interview skills, everything that we thought we needed when we were going through this process and we were alone. We made sure that they had their support, and many of them managed to get apprenticeship roles. It was absolutely amazing and it was lovely. Another social mobility thing that I managed to do was it's like AMO's Bursary. So it's one of those social mobility groups that support like underprivileged people of color, making sure that they have opportunities for work experience, working, and making sure that they're able to build their CVs or personal statements for universities and making sure that they put on the right foot forward. I had the
Right.
opportunity to host work experiences for those students along with my own secondary school, mainly because my sister was like, Shower, you're hosting a work experience for me and my friends. I was like, okay, I'm definitely doing that for you. They had a really good time. And then I got to participate in career carousels with Amos Bursary, where I got to talk to them about, I did this alongside Francis, who is like the one that is connected to the Amos Bursary. But I got to talk to them about my role, how I got into Microsoft and offer advice and then connect with them and help them further. It feels like really nice that I'm able to give back in a way that that I never received, just making sure that the people after me are well supported and I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that they're getting the support they need and they get the results that they want.
That's amazing. I mean, the empower to you for that as well, because like as a young woman to actually put that much effort, into helping others is incredible. So well done. Good on you for that. And then in terms of
Thank you.
the fact is, there's nobody that understands, in terms of being a young black woman better than a young black woman, right?
100%. Very true.
So the thing is, it's great to have your advocacy for those, to make that work, right? And
Yeah.
what I want to sort of, I suppose, did you mention Francis? Did you mention Francis?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm going to bring Francis on at some stage as well, right? So I'd love Francis on because he is like also, yeah, a great
He's a
character. He
really
took
big
us into
social mobility advocate.
yeah, yeah. He took us into one of the local schools as well. And I forget the
Hmm.
name. This is very much a dyslexic thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Names of things that are in your head and they just fall out. They're the simple
Hmm.
things. But that's just part, I think, of being dyslexic, right? I think
Literally.
that's why we sort of connected on this. But in terms of one of the things that obviously you moved sort of, at the cloud level, you're currently doing these integrated
Yeah.
marketing programs with Microsoft and the CMO team. So quite senior leadership in Microsoft. So
Yeah.
can you walk us through how cloud computing plays that role in sort of shaping marketing to some extent? Because one thing is obviously, especially when you target the C-suite or
Hmm.
executive engagement and you're trying to get to those levels, how do you work with the marketing team for that to happen? What facilitates that? And maybe that's a difficult question, but it's how you can use your knowledge so far to sort of help attract the students to that as well, and maybe different groups, because we want to grow the
Hmm.
technical community
Yeah.
from all walks of life to maximize our thinking, really, I think, about how things work, and how to
100%.
get the best out of that technology. You
Hmm.
need huge diversity of thought,
Definitely.
right? So how do you think about how you're going to use that, or maybe what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like so far my team is doing myself and my team are doing an excellent job in it. And when I talk to my manager about like how we are trying to bring people along in this AI transformation journey, it's literally trying to gather people along with us and make sure that they understand from a top level to a bottom level. My manager always says like we're funneling. So we run like for me, I'm an integrated marketing manager specifically for security, but I also do help like overall with AI Halo when I can, when time permits. So it's like making sure that with all the products that we have out and there's AI integration into it and also cloud computing, how are they being educated? Are they learning from us or are they learning from a competitor? So making sure that we have like the top level knowledge available for any and everyone. So we make sure we send it out and we make sure that we have them at least like 2 or 3 times a month, either sent out from like an EMEA top level or from a UK level. And when it comes to people hosting these webinars, it's my role. So I try to make sure that I have a variety of different people doing it. And for me, I try to make sure that if I can, I get the early in careers to do it. Mainly because a lot of them need experience presenting just because it's something that they're going to be needing when they're a full-time employee, and they actually need to get their faces out there. They need to make sure that they know their stuff. And what best opportunity for them to get that visibility, to show that they know that stuff. It's like that's the best environment to do it. You're presenting to a bunch of customers, and on these calls we average about 100 to possibly like 100 people on these calls. So I try to make sure I do get a variety of people, making sure that everyone gets that top level information in those webinars, but through the words of our early in careers. And my grannies that have done it for me, they have done a great job thus far with those particular presentations. But that's just like not the C-suite level, but that's just like a basic level of anyone that wants to understand like security, AI. It's always there on the AI Cloud Microsoft page. All the webinars are there. If they want to see it, everyone is able to access it. But then when we're filtering down to that BDM, TDM, C-suite level, it's getting more specific in their wants and their understandings, and through conversations between Microsoft sellers, or even like through like their like interactions with our content, we can see what they want to know and why they want to know that, and just like facilitate an environment for them to have those particular conversations. So whether it be through security leader forums, that we're seeing this is a big trend between in the security world, that we need our C-suites to know that Microsoft knows what they're doing. Not that we're trying to sell them information, but to know that Microsoft knows what they want. That Microsoft knows what they want, that they're doing in this particular space, and they can continue that conversation with their sellers to hopefully, drive a profit. Like a lot of what marketing just to do is to amplify what is being done at Microsoft and facilitate an environment for those conversations to take place. And I feel like we're doing a pretty decent job making those special arrangements, even like with things like the AI tool, making sure that at the end of the day, it's the business decision makers making all of the majority of the financial decisions. So we're taking the TDM stuff, technical decision makers information that, oh, we need this, but how can we convince the business decision makers to do that? So it's through like technical demos, but just making it more in the eyes of this is how it'll save you money, this is how it'll make your team productive, this is how it's going to improve your entire work stuff. That's kind of like how we are getting to that particular group.
I mean, as an aside, actually, because I'm still in the AI space, I think that there's going to be a huge impact on our society in general, right? So it's like,
100%.
it's a very exciting time to be in tech and see that shift, and really, how we support that so that it is inclusive and diverse.
100%.
A friend of mine said something to me, I think in the last podcast I did, that a farmer in Africa now has more access to information than President Kennedy had, right?
Yeah.
Right, in his back pocket on a mobile phone. Yeah. And with AI now, it's going to accelerate that even more. So that ability
Definitely.
for anybody, yeah. And how we make it more diverse through connection and things like that is really important, I think, in terms of the impact, on a global level. But how do you see the sort of, I suppose, if you look at that, the importance of diversity and inclusion? And what I do love about Microsoft is that access to training, right? That free training, access to training pretty much is everywhere, all over its website. And so it's really encouraging for anybody that wants to learn and has that learning mindset and that growth mindset.
Yeah.
You can learn anything you want on tech if you want, right? And that's what I'd call out on this. If you really want to learn about tech, go to the Microsoft website and you can learn a huge amount. And there's a huge amount of courses. Take the exams. They're not hugely expensive, yeah? But again, I'd like to see maybe more of how we could build more into diversity and inclusion for those groups that struggle in that area, right? So what do you see as a challenge, maybe, that there might be like surface level initiatives, but things that we could really build on over the next few years to support that? Not necessarily a Microsoft thing. This is more about maybe working in that challenge in terms of raising awareness on some of those initiatives. And that's across the sort of, maybe from a marketing point of view, things that we could push out there on social and, any thoughts on that?
So I feel like my brain goes into a lot of directions just because I have spoken to like a few people about some things that I've done in general that I don't feel like is as inclusive as it should be. Like even as simple as like some of the like exams, it just feels like I spoke to a few other neurodiverse people, and it's like it just doesn't feel neurodiverse friendly. It's like I'm sort of like trying to put my finger on what they could possibly change just to make it more comfortable and more accessible. But I feel like something might need to be updated in there just because not everything is just fact recall, if that makes sense. So that's just like one thing in that sense, but just making neurodiversity and just like representation central to everything that we do and not just an afterthought that you're just throwing in. Like making sure that, okay, we're having this flagship event that is hosting 5,000 people. We have all these sessions, but where are we highlighting the accessibility features of Copilot? Where are we showing the accessibility features of our products in general, like the sticky tabs or like the different remote controllers or X, Y, and Z? Like in those particular environments, we do have an opportunity to amplify them. So like making sure that if we are having like let's say we're having C-suite BDM conversations with like people in HR and we're looking at, okay, how can Copilot benefit all of your employees, making sure that it doesn't have to be the focal point, but it is a point in that is there to support accessibilities, making that possibly one of the topics for the roundtables, or just even having it on the stand just so it's always seen and making sure it's clear that it's not just like a simple afterthought. That is just like my goal in everything. Just do not make it an afterthought. Always think about it. Like it's like when you go to these events, you're seeing people of all different colors. Like respectfully, it's not always white men. Like I know the majority
Oh,
in
yeah, yeah.
this AI
Yeah,
workspace, but like
100%, 100%.
it's
Yeah.
not just that there's people of colors, so like people of color, people from different countries. So like in different part in like accessibility is not always neurodiversity. It's like simple as language barriers. We are
100%.
global we are global companies working in different countries. Not everyone's going to be speaking English, not everyone's going to be speaking Mandarin. So how is AI supporting those particular conversations? Or and then like on the neurodiversity side, how are they actually supporting us in our workplace? Are we showing the tips and tricks for what's it called that people need? Like not labeling them, oh, if you're neurodiverse, you have to use this prompt. This prompt is for you. At the end of the day, most prompts that are directed towards the neurodiverse people are just like productivity prompts, prompts that I feel like are my lifeline. If I share that to someone that is neurotypical, they're like, oh my gosh, this is making my life easier. Like the same way it's just like it's like I know my brain like works a bit 2 times slower, making me work on the average speed. That might make them work 2 times faster and they're going to be appreciative of it too. Because even like down to like the wording of things, like it can be labeled as a productivity tool. You can mention, hey, it can help neurodiverse people, but it's here for everyone. Like making sure that it's like a balanced language, just because because like I remember talking to you about this when it came to my dissertation. Like when it comes to this stuff, we're not trying to single people out, but it's information like that needs to be shared. Like when like I think you showed me, or it was it Mike Michelle showed me like the video series, like a little video series on YouTube, or people saying this is how I'm neurodiverse, you don't have to use it, but this is how Copilot has helped me. And those tips and tricks, I took those, they're useful for me, and I shared it with my team. I'm like, oh, show up. This is making things easier for me. Or even just like simple instructions that is just not, for me, it's just like heavy wording. I can't do a heavy wording. I will go into Copilot to slim it down. But even just like pre-thinking and having it clear and concise. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, and
just those things like that.
you're right, and this is the way where I see AI really helping is, the fact that eventually we're only in the first phases of it, right? So
Yeah.
phase one, right? And I think where the way our minds work, we're going to actually have an advantage for once. I think the fact
Mm-hmm.
that we can actually move from point to point to point very quickly, our ability to deal with change, because we always have to deal with change,
Yeah.
right? In terms of how our minds work, will give us the ability to, cope with all the moving
Mm-hmm.
parts. Whereas people who are neurotypical may struggle because they're used to more structure, whereas our
Yeah.
brains, as you know, don't work with the same format of structure. We have to sort of confine ourselves into trying to be structured,
Mm-hmm.
but that actually confines how we think. So it's going to be really, I think this generation coming up now with the
Mm-hmm.
openness, because we didn't have that sort of openness,
Yeah.
but the openness of neurodiversity and how it's something that can actually support the workplace rather than be a
Mm-hmm.
negative.
Yeah.
I see that motion coming through, but we need, advocates like you driving that,
Yeah.
older generation like me that, driving it too, right? So together, I think we've got a lot more power as we sort of look to the next 3 to 5 years, right? So in the
Yeah.
context of that personalization in the workplace,
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
see AI and potentially a great opportunity for companies like Microsoft and the other big vendors out there, right,
Mm-hmm.
to be more thoughtful towards context and personalization
Mm-hmm.
of that experience. So, do you see that as a maybe something with with way AI is changing, is almost building models that are designed around different types of brain type, right? And it's
Yeah.
really interesting space to look at. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like we are going to get to that point that we're making everything a lot more personalized. Like even like with agents and having it like building it specifically for you and what you need, or like having specific Copilot chats that have personas that are able to help you with what you do. That personalization is coming, and I hope it comes a little bit faster. Just because
Yeah,
I feel like I need everyone to jump on that bandwagon. It's better to learn now while it's still growing than to not do it at all and then have to learn a stupid amount. Even like not even like with AI, like people's like reluctance to change. I feel like it's funny to me because I was speaking to someone earlier this week about New Outlook, and I was like, New Outlook's been like a feature for me for like at least 2 to 3 years, and I made the conscious decision to switch to it early because like my brain's like, okay, the earlier I switch to it, the more time my brain gets to process like how it works. So I'm able to use it better than everyone else that's going to be switching later on. But to then say people haven't changed, and it's just like that mindset of like the pre-preparedness and people not just like trying to move with the changes essentially. But I hope a lot more people take into account personalization, just because not everyone works the same, not everyone thinks the same. And the more you train your AI models, the better it's going to work for you. Because like I know like some like the way my manager speaks and say something is not always the way that my brain will process it. But because like I've trained Sam and like my like Copilot chat, I'm like, okay, break this down in a way that I will understand, or I'll literally say break this down in a way that is applicable to someone that has dyslexia or someone that has ADHD will I have this. So I put both in there and it breaks it down into a step by step. So I'm able to like absorb that information, making it more personable to me, but making sure that I'm able to do my work the way I'm supposed to do. I hope that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, in terms of like the whole idea of cloudy with a chance of dyslexia, we're trying to open up a space for discussing our learning differences, right, and
Mm,
how we are different. Do you think at the moment, and this is not specific to where you work or where we are today, right? It's more about the corporate world. Do you
mm,
think they're doing enough to support neurodiversity in the workplace? Because I always question this because there's people that might write something down on their website and they might sort of say about it and that say they're open to it. But when they actually get into the working environment, very few people understand it, right? And it's not a
mm,
criticism of the corporate world. It's the misunderstanding of what it means to be dyslexic or
yeah.
neurodiverse in any way. And in a high pressure environment, people revert to type, so atypical, right?
Mm,
They then judge you by an atypical way of thinking and don't necessarily lean into understanding what your skills are. So this is a challenge that I see quite a lot and have done over the years. So I just wonder if you see that too as a sort of early in career person that's trying to drive some change at the same time. Is that a challenge you see, or when you're under pressure, do you feel you get the right support?
it is a big challenge, and it's frustrating me that it's as big of a challenge as it is, because I speak to people internally and externally, especially like mainly the apprentices, talking about like getting support. Like with me, so it's like it took almost 2 years for me to get like any support of any kind, because I wasn't made aware what was there to support me. Like some people have all of that information and are able to get things from the start, and like they have to push very very hard for them to get it or to make sure it stays on track. With me, I didn't know for 2 years. That's why I'm like, okay. if I'd lived for 2 years, I'm not letting another early in career that I'm aware has dyslexia, if I'm aware or not, know that there's like, I will make sure that they're aware that there's something that they need to know. Speaking to people externally, that like half the time I'm not sure if they're there to support me because I'm trying to push it through, but they're not listening to me. And like I've been fortunate that I have a team of people that they might not, it's like they learn about it and they're advocates for it. Like there's people in my team, like Mike and Imogen, who are big advocates for Diversity, Equal Tuesday, supporting those initiatives, and through their help have educated my team and my department. I feel like sometimes I'm like, because like sometimes I want to. I feel like it's just like the Gen Z me. I was like, why do I need to educate you on this? Like, you should know. Like, you should know that not everyone is like thinks the same way. You should know that not every it's like you might find this fine, but I will struggle in it. It's like you should know that not everyone works. You might hope that everyone thinks the same way as you, works the same way as you, but the reality of the situation, that's not the case. Like my it's like I get frustrated because I'm like, why do I have to tell you? Why should I tell you that dyslexia is not, it's like not for some people, it's just like, let's just jump in on a page. For me, it's not the case. It shows differently in people. Why do I have to prove to you that I'm dyslexic? Or it's like, oh, you don't look like you're a person that is neuro. Do you know how many times I got that? You know, when I say I'm neurodiverse, like they'll either say it or they'll look at me like, really?
Yeah,
You?
yeah.
But
I
you
just
function so
wondered.
well.
It's interesting because I had some conversations about this. So I'm going to be interviewing somebody soon. And one of the things I did a pre-call, and one of the things she
Mm-hmm.
said to me was that she wouldn't want that for her children. And I said, well, do you know what? It might actually be an advantage in the next generation. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a really good video about it on Made by Dyslexia, which is
Mm-hmm.
a charity that I absolutely love. Right? It talks about Orlando Bloom. It talks about all the people that have overcome what would be considered a challenging as a young person growing up, right?
Yeah.
In not understanding why they had these challenges, right? And I think
Mm.
one of the biggest challenges, not knowing
Yeah.
that you've got, you just feel different, right?
Mm.
And you don't know why, and you don't know how to articulate that. And if you don't have
Yeah.
if your parents don't understand it either, or
Mm.
there's stigma in terms of talking about it,
Yeah.
and it could be cultural, there could be all sorts of reasons behind it. So when you talk to your parents about it, how did they take it? How did they understand it? Did you have some challenges? Just wondered, out of
I
interest.
feel at first it was like then
Really? Really?
it was like, because when I was like, I feel like I'm a bit different. I'm not sure, mom just saw it as like a passing question. She's like, no. But then I started tuition for I think it was just like meeting, is it a possibility? Because I'm like, my school should have, when I told you, like, if I explain my journey, because I told you my primary school should have picked up because they should have picked up because, like, oh, yeah, Michelle's a bit slow in English, but she's fine in everything else, so it's fine. And then doing like the reading says, oh, she's performing slightly under average, but it's fine. Oh, we're going to start this test, but then they don't pick it up. Like, they started the process for me like 2 or 3 times and they just didn't do anything with it until like that day at tuition outside of school. My tutor pulled my mom to the side after the session. She's like, yeah, within 10 minutes of teaching Showa, I was like, yeah, she's dyslexic. Like my daughter's dyslexic and I have to teach Showa like I teach my daughter. I'm like, that's interesting. Because at that time I put this the thought of dyslexia or something out of my mind completely. And then mom went to the school and like for what 3-4 months, she was saying, you're gonna test her. You're going to, it's like, it's like the and this was like year 11, so like from September to December, she was on their backs. Like you will be testing her. Like how has she been in your school for this long? You're saying that there's concerns. She is doing well in everything else, but not as well in English. She's struggling with the reading and comprehension. She's like, why are you not supporting her? So mom basically throttled them into making sure that I was tested. I was tested in December, and like, yeah, you have dyslexia, but we are not gonna give you, and it's like you're gonna get your extra time for your exams, but that's all you will get because by now you should have learned how to deal with it. I'm like, what? If I knew,
Crazy, right? It's
that's like,
crazy. That's the attitude. Even I really didn't think. I thought it got better. My daughter's I'm going to have my daughter on here. She's a
yeah,
primary school teacher, and I will bring her on actually and talk to her about it because she's dyslexic too. Yeah, but she
hmm
got a first class honours degree. I'm very proud of her. I mean,
Love
it was a
that.
long time ago now. She's 30 now, right? So it was a long time ago, but yeah, still very proud. But she's, you know, she's she's always struggled, you know,
Mm,
with it, you know, and also even people understanding. So even when she had
yeah.
to, because she sort of travels a lot and she came back and she had to, like, she takes a lot of work on where she gets short-term contracts.
Hmm.
Made her take like a written test.
You're lying.
Again, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was like they didn't understand, like that wasn't her strength, and this is in a school, right, where you would have thought they'd understand it,
No.
and so there's certain things that still go on that are that they misunderstand, even
Hmm.
in the education environment,
Yeah.
of the process, the thought process, the way we think, yeah, and what we're
100%.
strong at, which is usually presenting or getting our points across or talking to customers or the verbal communication I think we both have, you know, and the way we connect is really good. But when you have to write stuff down, you know, AI is great, right? It does it for you.
Yeah, it's like, do not ask me to write a good email. I can't do that for you. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes if you just write something, I'm like, that doesn't look right. So I always use AI to sense check it because no, but if you give me a bit of organization, you want to make something look good, you want to go through the campaign, I'm there. If you need me to write a thick email explaining what was said, I'm not doing it. I could, but it's just not going to be my best. Even times like I'll have like calls with my manager because the way I think of things is not the way that everyone else needs to see it from me. So there was times like even like to this day that we still work through like, okay, like these are still it's like I'm like, you need to tell me how I need to be perceived for me to be able to do what I need to do well. It's like, okay, these people are saying they need to see it in this particular way. We'll work through and how formatting it. So sometimes I even have like my sentence starters or like my basic bit of structures like in English when we had like the PEE paragraphs. I have that for like my works of just to make sure I have the right things in the right orders to make sure that I get myself across in the way that they need to understand me in. Because the way it's like if I say it to you, I know you're gonna understand exactly what I'm saying. But if I say it to the people that I need to say it to, they're like, yeah, sure, but you're not getting the point across when I know that I am, but they're not hearing it because they're not hearing it in the way that they need to say. So it's like even like the conforming to what they need to hear.
Yeah,
It's just like it's like an extra layer to the thinking. I feel like with the dyslexia, coupled with the ADHD, and like oh I didn't say the ADHD journey. I feel like you can see like my brain is going back and forth. So
yeah,
after I got my dyslexia diagnosis, I was like, okay, that's great. But I'm like, you see, like when it's like there's something there, there's something else there. And I was doing my research, and they're like, majority of women do not get diagnosed until like majority of people in general only get diagnosed when they are 50. And like for women, it's a lot later in life just because we don't present in the traditional way. And the only reason it's a traditional way is because all these sessions were done on white males. They've not done it on people of different cultures or just different genders or anything. So it's just like, okay, I don't present in the way that they expect me to, but it's still there. So during year 13, as I was applying for a bunch of apprenticeships, doing my A levels, I made sure I set aside time to get my ADHD diagnosis because I was sure I had it, but for me, I just needed that little bit of confirmation. So I went through Psychiatry UK Right to Choose, and that's the one that I saw on TikTok at the time. And I was like, okay, that works for me. And surprisingly, because I think it was a bit harder like a couple of years ago, but I got my appointment and diagnosis like within 3 months of like putting the initial request through, which I know is very, very quick compared to the normal waiting times of 2+ years. And even that I've been an advocate of going through testing and making sure it's like if you feel it, get your test done because you're valid to say it without the test. But I know for a lot of people, having the test and having like the factual confirmation is very, very important to them. Like it was important to me, it was important to my sister, it was important to a few of my friends. And like you feel so like calm with it. Like with my friends that go to traditional uni, I'm like, make sure you harass your uni because they will pay for it for you and you get a DSA. Like, so many students, so many apprentices do not know about DSA, and it hurts my heart, my mind, and my soul because there's stuff in place for you to get support, to get extra things, and you don't know about it. But for uni students, you can apply within your first, final, whatever year, and they will give you a laptop so you're able to do all of your work. They will give you headphones because, like, with me, that was literally my work requirement, just because if there's too much noise around me, I will not function. They will give you like a microphone to record when you are in lectures. If you need a printer, because not everybody's able to like work properly on laptops, they could provide that for you. There's so many things that they will give you to make sure that they're as supported as they can do, as they can be for you. So like take advantage of that. That's my big thing. And that's even why I'm making sure I walk through that process with my mentees internally and externally to make sure that they get the support that they need. Like some of them need like squishy toys just so that they can like reduce their anxiety during meetings or while they're trying to process the information that has been served to them. Some people, it's like they work best when they are in the office, but the noise is too much for them. It's a need. It's not a want, like, oh, I just want new headphones. No, for me to function at my optimal best that my company wants, I work so much better with it. I'll work so much better with a standing desk. So I'm not like when I'm getting anxious, whatever it is, I can stand up and I can walk a bit and I can pay attention during my meetings. I need to have that body flow. There's so many things that it's like it's like you think you need that you can get or that you don't need. And when you go through those assessment processes, they'll be able to point you into the direction of mentoring, ADHD or dyslexia coaching. They'll point you to the direction of, hey, just to let you know, this is what has worked for me. If you want to try it out, let me know and then feedback to me. Like having those conversations and making sure people are aware of what support they can get and when is so, so, so important. So I think I went
Yeah.
on a slight tangent.
No. That's amazing information for anybody that's, needs advice and guidance on this, because you had a very strong mother, right? That went out there and sort of hammered the school to get you the support, right? But not
Yeah.
everybody's got that, and you've got to think about it, right? Not everybody's got a great mum like yours that really sort of pushed things, right? In fact, I because I was dyslexic, I didn't really share it. I really didn't talk about it until latter parts of my life, because I thought, no, because anytime I say it, it's a negative connotations on your career and things like that. And that's the reason I'm doing this podcast, because I think it needs to be shared now. That
100%.
if you think about 20% of the workforce that exists could have some form of dyslexia. It may not be an extreme version, but they've just coped with it. They've coped with it over the years, and there are ways to cope with it better now, right? By using
Definitely.
AI, there's tools out there. And so, as you go through the generations and you go through our cultural shift and how we collaborate better as society, and, there are some negatives going on at the moment, I know, but, let's bring us back to positive contribution to society, right? As a team, in collaboration, we need to understand those spaces that are, and this moves on to another point, right? In tech, it's very male dominated, right?
Very.
And some women coming into that may not come into it because they feel intimidated, right? Because it's so male dominated. So how do you think then, with being neurodiverse, having these challenges, how do other people be brave enough to come into this space, right? And how do they build their bravery? How did you overcome that yourself? Obviously, having a strong mum helps, right? She's going to go do it, right?
Yeah.
But how do you give people advice and guidance in terms of how they make that first step? What were your first steps? How did you overcome that in terms of, coming into the environment that's like a young black woman and then 20 white guys, right? Or something. How do you get through that? Because I suppose it's a daily challenge and it can be intimidating, right?
Yeah. So like I feel like no matter what career I was going to do, because obviously we're going to be engineering or tech, it was going to be very, very, very male dominant. And like I feel like both of my parents, they really instilled like confidence in me. Like it's like they made us aware like you are a woman of color. things are going to be harder, but what are you going, it's like, that's what my dad said, but what are you going to do to be different? He's like very much like, the reality of the situation is this, but what will you make it? And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And I can't lie, the advice I gave myself and what I give to others is just be delusional and it will work out. In the sense, like, the reality of the situation is this, but I'm not gonna let that tear me down. Like this, I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous at times. Like sometimes you just sit in a meeting and I just be mute, but then other times I'm like, you know what, this needs to be said, and just be empowered to say it. And I feel like one of the first times I did it was like 3 months into this role, and I was like, is that really? It's like, I didn't say it in the moment. I was like, you know what? They're like, okay, at the end of the day, what will you guys think of the day? I was like, yeah. As you know what, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. My heart was shaking and racing as I said it. I was like, do you guys remember that particular presentation from those people? It just didn't feel as inclusive as it should. Like there was something about it, and I explained like what that something was. They're like, oh, I didn't know about this. It's something that we need to keep on our radar. Everyone's yeah, okay, you know what? They took it well. It's like they weren't gonna bite my head for saying it, and they actually appreciate what I was saying. It's like, you know what, this is the reason why we have you in the team. Like talking about like differences in like thought process, experience, and like cultural knowledge, I guess. Just making sure that you have that. It's like you were there to be there. And what I always tell to people, well, I always tell people that are in those positions, and what I told to myself, you weren't hired for any reason. Like when they saw you with me, I have a clearly Nigerian first and surname. They knew who I was when I was writing down the application. They saw me in those interviews. They saw my personality. They saw my work ethic. And that is what got me through the doors. Like, imposter syndrome is still there, but it's one of the things I say to myself, okay, but Shell, I didn't hire you for any reason. And if they hired you for no reason, you wouldn't have passed the probation period. But you did. So I'm like, just speak your truth and you'll be fine. And I feel like, again, it's because I landed in a team of people who are they're just very good people. It's like, they will listen to you. If you have questions, they'll speak to you through it. If you're wrong, they're not going to be like, you're wrong. They'll be like, you know what, Shawa, I understand what you're saying, but this is why we see it this particular way. It's like, they're kind about it. And like with me, like not everyone's comfortable to be open with their neurodiversity. I am. It's like half the time I feel like I'm very unapologetically myself. If I make a spelling error, I'm like, oh my gosh, oopsie, dyslexia got me today. And I just like make a jokey song or dance about it just because it makes me feel better. And again, like I was not hired for no reason. And like another reason why when I was applying and like through the first year of my apprenticeship, I wasn't like ashamed of my dyslexia is because there was like a whole wave on LinkedIn about dyslexic thinkers and how, oh, our brains are amazing. Oh, we need to, it's like, put that in your LinkedIn skills, dyslexic thinker. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? Yeah. Do you want me to show you the proof that I have it too? I don't mind. You want a dyslexic thinker? I am the most dyslexic one you'll find. So it's like, I feel like it's just like silly things like that empower me. And I tell people to do the same. So, oh yeah, just joke about it. Like you don't have to joke about it in front of other people. Joke about it to yourself, and then roll through with that confidence. People will be looking at you like, why you're there? Show them why you're there because you're amazing at what you do and hire you for no reason. And that's what I tell my apprentices. That's what I tell people in other companies. That's what I tell everyone. It's like, they didn't hire me for no reason. I'm there for a
Yeah.
purpose, and I'm showing my purpose.
I love that. I love that. And also the thing that I think a lot of people don't necessarily know is, you're right, all those tools that are available to them,
Yeah.
all those, you know, and I think we need to definitely share that, right, in terms of how that can help so many others out there. Also, Microsoft do have, combined with some of the other charities out there, and that would be Made by Dyslexia be one.
Yeah.
And there are lots of other charities, but Made by Dyslexia is really interesting because they've done a course to help not only parents and students on the Microsoft training, under the training page, and I'll include a link on that helps people understand dyslexia, right?
Yeah.
What it means to be dyslexic. So if you are a parent or even you want to try and understand your work colleague better, you can actually spend an hour on LinkedIn Learning and learn about what dyslexia is and how you can manage that. Because we're all in our bubbles, aren't we, sometimes, right? We all get stuck within that misunderstanding way of thinking sometimes. And, you know, sometimes you need to reflect and understand that person thinks differently. And I got nudged the other day, actually, by my wife to say, John, because we walk around the woods in the morning talking about work and things like that, and then sort of moaning and groaning a little bit sometimes, right? Like you do. And I said something about a colleague, and she goes, did you think about that? did you think about what that colleague might think and maybe the
Mm-hmm.
challenges they might be having right now? And I thought,
Yeah.
probably not enough. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're in that motion, you're in that short-term thinking and you're like
Yeah.
into the weeds on work, you sometimes unintentionally, misconsider things. And this is
Yeah.
this is just a human trait, right? And how we do it. So, but back to you. So, that's like a little bit of an aside. But in terms of looking ahead, as one bold professional that you are, right, in the next few years, whether it be because of your engineering background and all that and that 10-year plan, what sort of legacy would you like to leave?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like I want it to be around being an advocate for neurodiversity, making sure that people are not that people are just aware and that they consider it. And then also just to be an advocate for early in careers, whether that be apprentices, grads, interns, any of the sort, that they know that they're important in the company and that they should just shine the way they're supposed to, I guess, like making sure that people feel welcome in the company and that they're free to express themselves as a neurodiverse person or just their personality in general. Just people, I can't get my words out. Just like, I feel like I want my legacy to be that I want people to feel inspired by me, I guess, like to be confident in them as an employee because they were not hired for any reason. They're phenomenal. And also to like embrace the neurodiversity. Because with me, it took me a couple years to embrace it. And I'm happy that I did.
So I'm pleased. It's been so great to talk to you. I was just thinking in my head, this is how your brains work, right? The beginning of the Tina Turner movie going, this little shine light of mine. You remember that song? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. So it just reminds me of that a little bit in terms of that power that that comes across from you, right? That buzz that you bring when you come onto this pod, right? In terms of your energy. So don't ever lose that because it's incredible to have your thoughts down on this podcast, and I think it will really help a lot of people. So I'm really, really delighted to have you on, and thank you for taking your Sunday morning out to talk to me because I can't imagine it being that exciting to come to some old white guy's podcast and have a
It's
chat with
very
him.
exciting. I woke up buzzing.
Oh, thank you so much. You are the youngest person that's come on the podcast so far, right? Don't think I'm going to get easier any younger, right? But well done. It's fantastic to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on. It's
Thank you for
really
having
important
me.
to make sure that we've got that balance and this. And I've got a load of other friends I'm going to invite on as well. So thank you so much for being my pal and coming on the podcast. It's been fabulous to have you on. Your dynamic way of thinking, and I think that you're going to have such an impact on the dyslexic community and within your own communities as well. And by the way, I would love to get involved in in supporting that. Just to go and talk to the schools if needed as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always open for that. So just don't ever forget. I'm happy to jump
I will
in.
keep you in mind,
Yeah,
definitely.
thank you. All right, okay. Look, have a lovely Sunday morning. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and really appreciate you joining today. And let's wrap up there. Unless you want a final thing to add in, you're
No,
you're
thank you
more
for
than welcome.
having me. Oh my gosh, who would have thought a coaching relationship would turn into this? I love it.
Exactly. No, really great to have you on. All right, take care. Let's
All
go.
right, thank you. Bye.
Right, I'm going to stop there.